Oh my gosh.
The Skeptic.
The Skeptic.
Let us find out why you call yourself the Skeptic. Enlighten
Yeah,
us, Sam.
obviously I go along with this stuff and I do believe in a lot of this, but I think it really comes down to more where I started on the journey versus where I'm at now.
So where did you start?
So my mom loves to tell a story to all of my exes.
Oh, yes.
She was like, I knew Samantha was not meant for religion or blah, 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 blah when she got baptized and she shit all over the minister in her baptism. So embarrassing. So embarrassing. She loves that story. And she will probably, if we ever have her on here, that'll be like the first thing that she says.
Wait. Tell the grandpa one where you're sitting there and you say
So then
something.
there was another thing with my grandpa when I was in, because I grew up in New England, and a lot of the religion up there is more like, hey, we're going to learn about different religions. We're all just kind of convening around these Bible stories, but it's just more about like, how do these stories correlate to now, and how can you just be a better human? It's not like fire and brimstone. You must believe all of this, or you're going to hell. That sort of stuff. Like, nothing like that. And we had a confirmation church. Like when you're about 13 or 14, you go in and you learn about, the different religions, and you see whether or not you want to confirm to being part of the church, which is very laxed, very hippy dippy. And I remember I got up there in front of the entire church.
At what age? Wait, what age?
I was like 13, 14, maybe a little bit older, 15. 15 where I was rebellious, and I was like, screw everybody. I'm going to question everything. And I got up there, and they're like, do you confirm to being part of this congregational church? And I was like, no. And my grandpa, who is like he was very religious. He went to, I think that generation, it was like, you go to church to feel better. It's like their way of going through therapy in some level. And I got up there, and I just was like, no. This isn't for me. And I remember hearing in the background, because he was in the church choir. He's so cute. He had his little spot in the church choir. He was in the very back corner. And I don't know if he ever really sang. He just kind of mumbled through it. So cute. But I just remember hearing him laughing in the background, just like, this is my granddaughter. She's going to do whatever she wants to do. And
I think he said he'll never be worried about you or something like that later.
Yeah.
On, right?
Oh, yeah. He used to always say, I'm not worried about you. When that happened, I realized Samantha's going to do whatever the hell she wants. There's no stopping her. And I just was like, I'm not going to worry about that one. No.
Which is awesome, because if you don't mind me saying, Sam, which is really awesome, because I know that we both have suffered from a lot of bullying when we were kids, from our own angle of it. We were the victims. And so the fact that you had that courage and was able to stand your ground at that moment, I think is just epically fucking awesome. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It was so awesome.
Hey, I figure as long as we don't swear every other word, it's fine. But yeah, I was like, no, I'm not doing any of this stuff. And I remember, like, and it was just, as always, there's a little bit of a skepticism in me. And I think it was just more, not necessarily that I don't want to believe, but it was just more, I have to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
I need to experience it to believe it. And I think that there are a lot of people out there who kind of feel that way, where it's like, until I actually experience it or I see it happen in real time in my life, it's harder to believe. Because it's like, but the thing is that I also think people, like myself, when you see people who are really spiritual and you see people who are genuinely happy and they believe in imagination and they believe in magic, they have a different energy. It's almost like this childlike wonder that they kind of stumble through life like, hey, everything just kind of works out. Just kind of I stumble into stuff, and then that happens, and I just keep on moving. Oh, whereas, somebody who is a skeptic, who hasn't been really diving into finding the meaning of anything, you just kind of go, well, that's it. And you stop It's like you feel like you're just constantly hitting this wall. But for me, it was just more when I met you, I had the ending of a really bad relationship. But at the time, I just thought my world had come to an end. I was in a job that was very, I liked the people I worked with, first of all, if anybody's watching. I loved the people I worked with, but it was a dead end job. And I had several people, even HR representatives, go, yeah, this is kind of a dead end job. There's no room for growth unless somebody else takes you with them. There's no room for growth. And I just kind of felt like I was literally in a box, and I caught myself going for a year, at least a year. I was just like, I'm in a box. If this is all there is, this is not a life. And I think a lot of people in their 30s, they kind of go, this is not what I expected from my life. This is not what I wanted. And that heaviness just can be all consuming. And I was like, I have to figure out a way to get out of this. And it's funny because a mutual friend of ours just said, hey, would you want to do a reading with my friend Mina? And I said, can't hurt. I'll give it a shot.
So was that your first reading that you've ever had?
No, I mean, I had like one or two where it was literally I got dragged in by a friend. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. It'll be fun. And some of the stuff actually happened, but I kind of forgot about it. I literally feel like I had forgotten about a part of myself when I was in that state. And I felt like it was me versus the world. And I realized... This was
like 7 years ago, right?
It's like 7 years ago. About 7 years ago. And then all of a sudden, one day, you and I did a healing, and I was around some friends, and they were like, you're just glowing. You seem happier. You seem like things are more possible. And I was like, yeah, I kind of do. And this was one of those things where it didn't happen overnight.
Right.
This has been an ongoing process, but there's a lot of, I'm still very much in the bank of, I need to see it or experience it or see it in real time or look at it in the past and go, oh, look how far I've gotten, in order to go, this is possible.
And for those who don't know, when she says healing, we did like a healing meditation. It's an energy healing thing that I've been doing since I was a kid. So we sat and we did stuff together for a given period of time.
Yeah. And I kind of felt bubbly, and I felt lighter, and I felt better. It wasn't necessarily better in the sense of like, oh, I feel skinnier or on a physical level, but I felt like I was starting to come out of whatever it was I was in. And between that, the spiritual work, learning about spirituality, because I just dived into it like a scholar, and I really did all my research. I did a lot of research.
And you worked on yourself so much. Throughout these years, you've worked on yourself so much. It's been incredible.
And it really just requires this want to, for me, it just came down to, I just want to feel better. I don't want to go through life feeling like it's some sort of drudgery or it's me versus the world and nothing is out there. There's no magic, there's no imagination. And I know a lot of people, especially during COVID, are kind of sitting there going, the world's out to get me. This is terrible, and kind of curling into their own little ball. And I think that's why I really wanted to do this, is because it's like, hey, I've been there. I know that feeling of being in your own little ball, feeling like there's nothing out there to help you. You sit there and you're like, I tried praying for God and he didn't show up. And sorry, I got a little.
It's okay.
But I mean, there is that feeling.
And we're not here to debate God's existence.
Right. And that's the thing is like, but that's when you really feel like you've just been forgotten. Yeah. And you kind of look at your life and you're like, I have things around me that I love. I love my family. I love my kids, or I love my spouse. But there's also this feeling of, but this is not what I feel I'm meant to do completely in my life. These kids are meant to be my life, of course. But it's like, you also have that moment of, I have to follow that gut. And sometimes these spiritual awakenings hit so hard because you're following that gut, and that gut is the antithesis of who you are right now.
Yep.
and I think that's the hardest lesson that a lot of people need to learn. Or I think that's a lot of the reasons why a lot of people just stuff that voice. Oh my gosh, look at these tears. Ugh. So gorgeous. But I just think that that's really what drove me was, I don't have kids. I have a job and it's good. I like people I work with,
and you
I
felt
don't
alone,
have to.
lonely.
Yeah, you start to feel really lonely, and you don't know what. You start to kind of shed this skin, and you're going, I don't even know. I think this went from skeptic to spiritual awakening. But that was the thing for me, is that I kind of had this awakening of, I don't want to feel like this anymore. And I feel like I've had several spiritual awakenings since then, where you just have this moment of, I don't want to live like this anymore. How do I reinvent myself?
So as you did, you started to research, I'm going to say this word loosely, other people that use the word guru and called themselves gurus or experts.
Right.
And then our conversations developed, which was...
Yeah, so I started listening because I would literally just look up anything that was going through my brain and see if there was a YouTube video on it. Some of them were weird. Some of them were a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. I was like,
or a book,
or a book, or whatever. But I dove into Eckhart Tolle. I dove into Brene Brown. I drove into anybody that had a PhD next to their name that was, also looking deeper into spirituality rather than just using psychology as a science, and trying to find my own mantras, trying to find my own way of shifting my perspective from, well, the world, this is it, and I'm just stuck here until it's over, to, well, how can I, looking at life as if we're here to learn, we're here to go through experiences in order to kind of report back to the other realm of what we endured. And the fact that, and I've heard this over and over again, it's not just from one particular person, but the whole idea that we are here to have we are spiritual beings here to have a human experience. And it takes some serious guts to come down to this world. And that was the thing that really got me, is I was like, oh, wow. So you start looking at it as you start to see a little bit more magic in life. And then before you know it, you're like, it's not that bad. Like, COVID hit, and my mom was so worried about me, because she's like, so you're here by yourself, and you have no family around you out in the pandemic, and you're stuck at home, and you're an extrovert. What the heck are you going to do? And I was like, this is great. This is my time to figure out the stuff that I couldn't figure out because I was working or I was doing all these other things, and I wasn't able to sit down and figure myself out. So I was like, no, this is great. I mean, I can always Zoom chat with people, and that's been great. I mean,
I'm gonna go back for a minute, and so as you started to venture out and looking for these experts, if you will, you found some not so experts.
Yeah. So there's I feel like this is something that a lot of people, and we'll talk about it at another time, but a lot of people talk about manifesting. And
so just gut for guru before guru.
Yeah, and this is really how we came up with everything, because this whole gut before guru, and I am a big, huge believer that if you feel like you are stuck and you are in that place that I was in, you should go see a therapist. And that's not to say that you have depression or there's something wrong with you or anything like that. A licensed therapist. Go see a licensed, LMFT or a psychologist or psychiatrist, whatever you feel most comfortable with, to help somebody just give you another perspective and have them make you, see a little bit clearer and a little bit better that things can work out. You are not stuck in any situation and you can move forward. It's just about moving forward. But Where's I going with this? So I was going to therapy, which I'm really thankful for, at the same time as I was learning about spirituality. A lot of these, and you'll find, because now I'm going to school for psychology, you'll find like there's a lot of correlation between spirituality and psychology, and it's becoming more and more entrenched. They're becoming more and more entrenched with one another. But I remember I hit this wall where everybody was talking about, well, you are what you think. I was like, okay, I am what I think. So when you have that mentality of, I am what I think, if you have a negative thought, all of a sudden you're shaming yourself.
Yeah.
You're having that moment of
double guilt, double shame.
Double guilt, double shame. It's spiraling in on yourself. And it almost turns into this mentality of positive only psychology can actually make you implode. This sounds crazy. This is going to sound crazy because you're like, well, what do you mean? So,
for some people.
For some people. For me, for instance, my thought was for at least 2 years, I was like, if I only think positive, only positive things will happen to me. Guess what? I was like, so I'm going to get this job. I'm going to manifest it. It's going to totally happen. I'm going to get it. Everything's great. The world's going great. And in my head, I'm going, maybe not a little bit. I don't know, which is totally human nature. I didn't even get called for that job. And I was devastated. I was like, what is this crap all about? But I realized that I wasn't doing any work on myself. If you're only thinking positive all the time, you're not doing the work on yourself. You're taking everything that could be dark or that is something about you that, may not be most pleasant, and you're stuffing it into a box and you're putting it away. You're never looking at it. And then eventually, when you put everything underneath a rug, it piles up and piles up and piles up. And then before you know it, it all comes crashing down on you. So that was the thing that really drove me crazy, was this idea. It's almost spiritual abuse, if you really think about it. Telling somebody you can only think positive. So when you have a dark thought,
telling someone you can only do anything.
Yeah. It's shaming.
One thing.
There's one guru in particular that's always like, she almost has this tendency to be very snobby. She has a tendency to be like, wow, I mean, you created this for yourself. You're your own creator. And it's like, damn. Or maybe it's just this was meant to happen so you could figure out X, Y, and Z and keep moving forward, rather than chastising somebody for having a sad thought. You have sad thoughts. I have sad thoughts. Everybody has sad thoughts. But that was the biggest thing for me. Why I wanted to start doing this was because people are getting a lot of misinformation. And I think that the most important thing is gut before guru.
Learn to listen to your own intuition, your own heart, your own gut.
Yeah. And obviously having people guide you is great, but if something doesn't resonate with you, keep moving forward.
Yeah, you don't have to follow it.
You don't have to follow it. It's not etched in stone. They don't know more than you do. And if they make you feel shame, then those people are not, worth being around. Don't be ashamed for having dark thoughts.
It's your own mind, body, and soul. And now at the same time, don't allow the dark thoughts to be what dictates everything. Just,
oh, absolutely.
This is what happened, and I'm moving through it, and I'm gonna.
Yeah, and that's really what I've noticed a lot, because you start to hear it. When you hear it over and over again from different people in different groups, you start to feel like, okay, well, this really resonates. That when somebody bothers you or upsets you, it's a reflection of you. Okay, that sounds kind of shamey. But it's more of a way of going, okay, well, there's something about this person that really bothers me. Is there something about me, without putting blame or shame on myself, something within me that is causing this sort of reaction? And sometimes it's just the other person is a miserable human being. and they're in a lot of pain. So it's like, you know, you can have a little bit more empathy for somebody that's just in a lot of pain, especially if you've been there. It's like, oh God, how can I help you? How can I make you feel a little bit better? And that's what the spiritual process, skeptic awakening thing has been for me, was starting at this very dark place and then ending up, you know, kind of just keep moving.
Well, you were a skeptic from the get-go.
Yeah, I've always been a skeptic. You tell me things and I still go,
yeah.
I don't know.
All the time. We don't agree on everything.
Oh, yeah. You were the one that was like, I think, you were the one who was like, oh, I think, you know, you're amused. And I'm like, I don't think I'm amused.
We'll get into that. That'll be a separate topic.
Right. But the thing is that we all have our own gifts that we're here to do. And the only thing I ever want from anybody is to be able to listen to that gut and not feel like it's something that's breaking your heart.
Yeah.
You know, your gut shouldn't be breaking your heart. Your gut should be something you're listening to. And sometimes we've done so many things in our life that are the antithesis of our gut, that we find ourselves, when we hit that spiritual awakening, devastated. That's really what the dark night of the soul is, that I think people talk about, is that you just, when you finally have that moment of, I can't live like this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like the first time you've really had it and enough crap is piled on, you just kind of go, fuck. You know, damn it, here we go. I don't know what's going to happen, but you just got to put one foot in front of the other. Then before you know it, keep trying to find the positive perspective, the positive reason why this happened, find the magic, and keep going forward. And then before you know it, you turn around and you go, hey, I got out of that dead-end job. Or I got out of that relationship that was making me feel bad, but in a good way.
Or simply happier.
Or I'm just happier. You know, I have a different way of looking at the world. My relationships feel better. It's just, you know, that's why you can still be a skeptic, but it's, for me, it's like I kind of go more on the psychology mentality, but the spirituality is just, for me, is just more about finding that childlike excitement and wonder about life and looking at things differently and having those synchronicity moments where you go, ooh, is something else around? Who's talking to me right now? You have a good dream? That's for Mina. I don't know what order we're going to do these in, but
yeah.
But yeah, so that's really what the skeptic is. It's more like somebody who's curious about spirituality, has come from the depths of, I don't want to say hell because it's not real for me, but like the depths of just some really heavy stuff. And how do you keep moving forward? How do you incorporate spirituality in your life without having to be a psychic?
Love it. So thanks, Sam. And
oh my
I
gosh,
love that we're doing this together.
23 minutes.
See everybody. Next one.
See you later.
Psychic.